We are here talking about another missed opportunity, but this time we're going to go back to 1994, and we're going to wonder why in the world that Bret the Hitman Hart never had his one-on-one payoff with Jim the Anvil Neidhart. So just a little backstory. We had Jim Neidhart come back at King of the Ring 1994. It looked like he was going to be a babyface. Do you guys remember when he came back with Bret in his match with Big Daddy Cool Diesel? Were you guys thinking this was a reunion of the Hart Foundation? Did you guys think that we were going to see them team up again and maybe go against the tag team champions, the Head Shrinkers or the Quebecers or Shawn Michaels and Diesel?
Well, I definitely did not see it coming where they would turn on each other. I didn't know if they were going to be in a tag team. I didn't know if it was a one-off, but yeah, that was definitely blindsided at the time by Jim Neidhart turning on Bret Hart. I did not see that coming at all.
And just to be fair, he didn't really turn on Bret, if anything. Bret brought him out for that match with Jim Neidhart, and it wasn't until much later when Owen Hart became the King of the Ring where Bret or Jim Neidhart joined Owen Hart and pretty much took out Razor Ramon.
Right. And then yeah, and that's true. And then we didn't see the interaction between Jim and Bret till a little later on, when there was a scruffle or whatever in the ring. But either way, it was a shock that Jim Neidhart turned heel because you just automatically well, Bret's not going to turn heel. He's the guy. And if he doesn't turn heel, the guy that's always linked up to him could never turn heel, even though his brother did. But the Hart Foundation, we always knew the Hart Foundation. They're either both faces or they're both heels. So no, that was by the blind side back then.
No, 100%. And it's weird, right? Because the last time that we saw Neidhart after the Hart Foundation breakup was August of '91, right? And he was doing commentary on Wrestling Challenge with Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, right? And then he doesn't appear until November of '91 with Owen Hart. And they're called the New Foundation, but every bit of, you have a Hart that is not like Bret. He's blonde hair, whatever. They've got baggy pants. There's not one iota of pink and black attack. That's what we knew the Harts to be, right? No glasses or whatever. It's just puffy MC Hammer inspired gear, and that was weird, right? That was weird to me, but I actually thought that Owen wasn't really Bret's brother. It was just some guy that they brought in, because he kind of, not until you look very closely, almost didn't resemble Bret at all, So there was that, right? And then obviously, the New Foundation breaks up because of Jim popping for substances, right? And so we know why we didn't get there, but obviously, Stu Hart, in his charming ways, probably got to Vince the next time that the WWF had went to Calgary. Hey, Vince, the big rhino, and he finds himself back in, which I think his pairing this time with Owen was just it put Owen over the moon as a heel, because of course he won tag titles with Bret. That was when Bret really got hot, right? In terms of his run in the WWF, he could have been Cowboy Bret Hart if not for Jim the Anvil Neidhart, right? So with that all being said, the New Foundation, I don't know if it was in the plans to have them win the tag titles or whatever, but when you think about Jim Neidhart, you think about the Hart Foundation. You just do. Even at Indies, away from the WWF, he's wearing the pink and black gear. He's not wearing the New Foundation gear, the high energy gear, none of it.
Yeah.
So,
and just to be fair, his Hasbro action figure was in the New Foundation gear. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but the LJN wasn't. So there's that. And again, I think there's a lot more people that are clamoring for LJN figures, in vintage wrestling, I guess collectorship, than there are Hasbro, and even if they're going with that Hasbro, they want that variant with the blue pants. Yeah, I know my shit. But anyway, so with that all being said, I don't know why we didn't get a match between them, because I think there was so much money, especially as Bret was the champion. I would have loved to seen, of course, we got Owen, right? We got Owen later in like 94, 95, somewhere in that deal, right? But I would have loved to see Anvil have a crack at Bret. I don't even think that happened on a house show, at least what I've seen. So the fact that they didn't have that at all, other than maybe like a opposite, them being opposite in a tag team on Raw, and it was a one-off. There was
Yeah.
no really big blow-off, and I think it was a disservice, especially when you had the Rockers. I mean, Marty and Sean going through the barbershop window, as Sean kicks Marty. They knew how to break up tag teams adequately. I don't know why they didn't do it for this one.
I like that you mentioned up their history because I want to emphasize just their history with each other. Obviously, Hart Foundation, a lot of people consider them the best tag team of all time. That's for another conversation. But again, I want to emphasize just the fact that they have so much history now. Just to be fair, because I'm trying to go back and wonder why it never happened. I do think that if it would have happened between King of the Ring and SummerSlam, it would have been a little bit too soon. And just to kind of throw out some other factoids about it, it's not like Anvil was brought back just to be the big, strong enforcer in Owen's corner. Anvil was wrestling. So it's not like that can be an excuse for why they never got together in the middle of the ring. You jumped a little ahead that we are going to get there at some point where they were on opposing sides of a tag team. So I do want to kind of throw out there that when I put up this not fantasy, but on this missed opportunity, I'm thinking specifically between SummerSlam and Survivor Series because, again, we saw Bret and Owen in another classic WWF Championship match. A lot of people consider that maybe being the best steel cage match ever. And then we saw the aftermath of what happened of SummerSlam '94. What happened after the match? Now, for those people that maybe need a brief summary, Bulldog came back after being gone for around 2 years. He did a little stint in WCW. That was British Bulldog's first match or first appearance back in the WWF. But just what was your overall kind of thoughts of what happened at SummerSlam '94? We had Bret and Owen in the classic match. We had Bulldog come back, and then we had that big hoopla at the end of the match. We had Owen and Anvil pretty much beat up the entire Hart family.
Right. And they that was good stuff when they were keeping him out of the cage. We never really seen that before in a cage match in WWF where they're using the cage as like a prison cell, basically. We're keeping everybody out, fighting them off the sticks and all that good stuff. I think that was I part of me was like it took a little bit of stock out of the Bulldog and the Anvil, the fact that they weren't like prominently accepted them being part of the WWF because they were sitting in the ringside. They felt like they were retired or something, that they weren't supposed to be there. But of course, that's what needed to happen in order for it to work for when the family was trying to get back in the cage, at the end of the match and all that. I think that that definitely worked. It was nice to see the Bulldog back. It was nice to see the Anvil back. And yeah, the whole storyline with the family, I mean, lives up to this day as far as I'm concerned. You can look back at the Bret Owen feud and the whole Hart family feud. And the stuff works great. And then even fast forward into the late 90s with the Stampede and all that. But I think that the Anvil needed to – I agree with you too, Adam, where you said it was cool to see him back. It was cool to see him back when he was back in the Hart Foundation gear. That actually was like it was different than seeing him in the new Foundation gear or like a regular street clothes as an announcer. That meant a lot more. It's like seeing Hogan when he came back red and yellow finally. It's still Hulk Hogan, but he's wearing red and yellow. It was with the pink and black with the Anvil. That little detail right there went a long way. And so to me, that little detail would have made that match between Anvil and Bret that much more important. And if it feels like these two tag team partners are going at it, and actually I lost a little steam personally when Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels would go at it because they don't both look like the Rockers anymore. and so yeah, if you had that with the Anvil and Bret, they're both dressed the same. It's like when Smash and Axe and Smash were the first two in Rumble '89. It was like two of the same are going at it. So just little things like that made a big difference. Again, I didn't see his heel turn coming. Did not see it at all. But once it did, it was like, oh, who would win between arguably one of the greatest teams of all time, arguably the greatest team of all time, the Hart Foundation, because you had two different dynamics in the team, and that's what made them so great. You had the powerhouse and then the technical ability, but who really is the most dominant part of that team, the technical guy or the power guy? I mean, I guess I don't know when you would have had. I know you talked, George, like you were talking about Monday Night Raw, and that would have been a good time to have it. Because I don't know what pay-per-view you could have it on back then, because Bret kind of had his plate full already with Owen and what was it, Bob Backlund at Survivor Series. So I guess Monday Night Raw would have been fine, but I mean, bill it as a very special Monday Night Raw.
And I know you're going to say something right now, Adam, but just to kind of anybody who's watching, who maybe started watching wrestling after 95 or 96, I know right now you probably can't fathom a month without being a WWE pay-per-view, but it was happening back then, because it wasn't until May of 95 where we didn't see a pay-per-view every single month. It was literally August was SummerSlam, and then the next pay-per-view was November Survivor Series. I know every now and then they'll throw in one, a Tuesday in Texas here and there, but for the most part, like, you couldn't really have this match anytime else except for, like you said, Kris, a very special Monday Night Raw.
No, 100%. And, it's funny because it wasn't until Anvil came back after the new foundation, after his hiatus, that I even realized that four of my favorite wrestlers were a part of the same family. I independently love the Hart Foundation, both Jim and Bret, and Bulldog and Owen, right?
Okay.
So I independently love them. I mean, like, to be a kid and to watch Owen Hart do his thing, I didn't realize that he was the Blue Blazer, at WrestleMania 6 or whatever. But I mean, just to see him, do his thing as, the Rocket Owen Hart, he was amazing. He was amazing, right? And then to know that they're all from the same family, and that didn't come apart until obviously the aforementioned cage match with Bulldog and Anvil sitting ringside, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, my favorites are all of the same family. And that's what even made that Hearts versus the King, whatever, to know that, like, Bruce and Keith, like, there's more Hearts. I mean, you're not just getting Bret and Owen, like, all of them are wrestlers. Holy hell! Like, what are we doing? They should all be champion. Like, it was like the greatest thing. It was like Christmas come early, right? So, like you said, Kris, where obviously, we would have seen what the technical smaller guy would have done against that big behemoth, right? And, in terms of the Hart Foundation, right? The Hart Foundation, they basically were the archetype of that type of tag team combination. We saw it later with LAX, Hernandez, and Homicide, right? Obviously to different degrees, Rey Mysterio and Batista, with that big man, small man dynamic that had never really been done on a worldwide, scene up until the Hart Foundation. So, I mean, to have two centerpieces of what tag team wrestling ended up becoming, defined by in North America, and not have them face off, especially when one is the champion and it's so intertwined. You put, Bret and Davey at SummerSlam 92, and then Owen and Bret in the cage match. All of their fortunes were intertwined, not just them being family, but just them as individual characters prior to, this whole kind of blow off in 95, right? So I don't know why this didn't happen. And like you said, it didn't even happen on a house show. Screw the special Raw, and I think that's a great idea, absolutely. But it didn't even happen on a house show, and I think that's egregious. Like, we never got that.
And I mentioned the time period. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I guess if I could jump in here, I would like to have seen that match, and I agree with everything that we're saying. A missed opportunity. Now I'm going to be devil's advocate here, and basically point out something pretty simple, which is like we talked on a previous episode here at the Wrestling Chatter channel on an episode of missed opportunities. This was a tremendous episode talking about the missed opportunity between Tito Santana and Rick Martel. I enjoyed it. I know you guys did as well, talking about that. And we touched on, while talking about that, we touched on the Rockers and all this. Now, I guess devil's advocate with this not happening is the fact that Martel turned on Santana. Michaels turned on Jannetty. We never saw the Anvil turn on Bret. Now,
I was gonna mention that. I'm gonna let you continue right now. Is that I specifically have it in this time frame of SummerSlam and Survivor Series because, like you just mentioned, Neidhart didn't necessarily turn on Bret. He turned heel by joining up with Owen. Now, a lot of the storyline, what we were seeing is Neidhart kind of guiding and coaching Owen, saying, "Hey, listen, I know how you can beat Bret. You know, let's align." So I have the time frame between those two pay-per-views, SummerSlam and Survivor Series, because we didn't really see much physicality from Neidhart toward Bret until SummerSlam '94.
And when we did, it was like, oh, they're going to fight. So I didn't personally. I mean, again, being devil's advocate, they didn't turn on each other, but personally, I didn't care. I was like, this is the Hart Foundation going at it. This is the same feeling. I still had that same feeling of the Rockers, the Strike Force, and even Royal Rumble '89 when Axe and Smash were out there. I just had that, what's going to happen here type feeling. And so I guess to me, that just shows too that since they didn't turn on each other, they weren't really invested in that. But that to me is like, we were not that far removed from what was their last appearance, WrestleMania 7, when they lost the tag titles. Like, that wasn't that long ago. And they had such a huge run all the way from the heyday in the 80s that it was like complete, no matter how you think of the Anvil, how much you want to invest in him, or if you want to keep Bret in these other programs, either way, however you crack it up, it's still a missed opportunity no matter how you slice it. No matter how you slice it, because you're always going to wonder about that. And you're always going to look at old footage of the Hart Foundation. You're always going to remember them. And you had an opportunity. I mean, there's no reason the ball should ever be dropped with a tag team breaking up, in my opinion. You can always capitalize on that.
No, 100%. And again, it's yes, they made money in Bret. Hopefully they made money with Anvil coming back with Owen and what have you. But I think they would have made more money. And then I think, having had this match, it would have made it even more meaningful and dastardly that Anvil, the arch nemesis of Bret, is teaming up with the younger brother and going for the title. And I think we would have possibly seen, if this match were to happen, it would have factored into Owen possibly getting a title run in his own right. And that would change the course of history. Owen versus Yoko, Owen versus Luger, Owen against Bret, in that first match on the card at WrestleMania 10 becomes the main event. Even though I think the way that was laid out in the storytelling from start to finish with the hearts intertwined, I think it was the greatest storytelling that you could do across a single Mania. That was, again, every bit of it was kind of intertwined with start to finish. A Mania hasn't happened like that in history.
WrestleMania 30. WrestleMania 30.
Oh yeah, Daniel Bryan. Okay, there you go. Okay, so but again, 20 years in between. It stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of throw out some other statistics, what happened around this time where I think this match should have happened. You had October 3rd, 1994, the Monday Night Raw. You had Bulldog defeat Neidhart by DQ. And then, like you mentioned earlier, Adam, on the November 7th Raw, just weeks before Survivor Series, you had Bret Hart and the British Bulldog defeat Jim Neidhart and Owen Hart when Bret when Bret put Neidhart in the sharpshooter. But that day could have easily been And even if it ended with like a DQ or something, like at least we saw some form of like one-on-one match where you can see the clash of styles, you can see some form of payoff. And again, this was during a time where DQs and countouts were part of the norm. So I wouldn't have minded seeing like a false finish or just some schmoz finish from this kind of match. It wasn't necessarily a match that needed a clear-cut result. Just something where we saw at least around 10 minutes of just them two just colliding like I think we should have gotten. And even for the sake of just, fantasy booking, yeah, have it for the WWF Championship. Why not, right? You had Bob Backlund go for the championship just weeks later after not doing much really ever on pay-per-view. Why not have Jim Neidhart just try to – I think it would have – I know they weren't in a ratings war, in 94. They weren't one until a year later. But why not have a big kind of show for Raw where you have Bret defending the belt against the Anvil?
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed. And I don't even remember. I have not seen that match in forever, maybe since it aired. But correct me if I'm wrong. Like during the match when Bret and Anvil like got into the ring, they didn't put it over all that much, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't. It
was a little bit. This is it. It was. I mean, they were working on Bulldog for a bit. So, and it was Bret that got the hot tag, and they were but it was more so Bret doing his comeback on both guys, but it wasn't necessarily them trying to outdo each other. Like they weren't really working. It was more so Bret with the hot tag and coming in to clean house and do his moves.
Again, it's like when we're going back to the previous episode of Missed Opportunities with Tito and Martel, when we touched on the fact that the first match that they had together was that 6-man tag at SummerSlam with Martel and the Rougeos versus Tito and the Rockers. And it was like once one got in the ring and Martel would quickly tag the Rougeos to get away from Tito. It was like there was all that. We didn't even have that. And this is the Hart Foundation. I mean, Strikeforce, they won the titles and all that, but the Hart Foundation, again, like you said, George, some people claim this. We were talking earlier off the air. But you had mentioned at one point, prevailed upon the fact that a lot of people arguably think the Hart Foundation is the greatest tag team of all time. All right. So if you are having that with Strikeforce, well, I mean, you got to, there's no tease, no nothing. I don't care if Anvil didn't turn on Bret. The fact is they're fighting each other now. And not only to not have this match, but you're not even going to like, add the drama to like they're both in the ring together. We've never seen this before. It baffles me that not only did they not have the payoff match, but even when they're in the ring, they're not going to tease it like a la 6-man tag, a Strikeforce, Tito Martel, SummerSlam. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's crazy. I just pulled up. It's so much gold. Like the New Foundation's TV debut against Barry Horowitz and Dwayne Gill. All right, Gilbert with fried blonde hair is essentially who the New Foundation puts their I guess makes their debut, right? And there's just so much meat. Even Neidhart at this New Foundation just to do a one-off with Bret, like I don't know why they didn't do it. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. It's actually kind of eating me away. But much like WWE does or WWF does, Vince is pretty much the quintessential czar, right? So whatever he wants goes. Then apparently we lost one Chris Kloss, but I don't know why we didn't do this. I mean, just technically it's there, right? The power moves, the technical acumen, it's just there. It's ripe, and we should have got a title run out of this.
It definitely would have been interesting to see this kind of match. Just something. Just give us something. Like I do agree. I can't say there was lots of money left on the table just because this was kind of a downtime of WWF. They weren't. It's not like they were, rolling in dough. It was late '94. We all kind of know how business was back then. But it just would have been cool to see. The same way Tito Martel wouldn't have moved the needle WrestleMania 6 time, it just would have been cool to see some form of payoff on a big time event. So right around this time, Raw was big time. You weren't seeing monthly pay-per-views, so I do think that this matchup would have been cool to see.
And there's nothing wrong with putting a match on a card, even like you said, WrestleMania 6. There's nothing wrong with putting a match on the card that means something.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't have skyrocketed WrestleMania 6 any higher, but it's like that just adds to it. Like there's intrigue. This match means something. It means a lot. It means even more than a created feud, because again, go back to those Royal Rumbles where everyone's just going at it, where tag teams are going at it.
I was going to mention too, like, and I don't want to sidetrack because we're about to wrap up right now, but you have just like we mentioned, the LOD demolition on the previous episode. You had 2 matches that had 0 backstory. If that's the case, why not just have one? Even though, and we did get a lot of feedback, so thank you for everybody who watched that episode, because we got a lot of feedback. Then they were saying that, well, it was just too much time has passed by. Like we were over it. We don't want to see it anymore. It was already. That was 6 months ago, right? But at least it would have had some backstory, as opposed to what we ended up seeing at WrestleMania 7, which was 2 tag matches with both teams involved with 0 backstory. Right. And it's just one of those where, as wrestling fans, we do like to see a little bit of a payoff. So whether it's wrestling, TV shows, movies, we all kind of want to see at some point that hero get their comeuppance against the guy that was shady or the guy that was, not being honest the whole time. And it just, wrestling's no different. We all want to see that as well, whether it's in all kinds of entertainment.
I agree.
Agreed. Yes, so if people want to talk about this more, we're getting tons of feedback, tons of great feedback about missed opportunities. I do want to thank you, everybody, for watching. Bret versus Anvil, what do you guys think? I want to know if this is something that you think should have happened. And to be honest, there's no reason why it couldn't have happened. Again, want to reiterate, this isn't fantasy booking. This is something where both guys were healthy, both guys were wrestling, nobody was hurt. It could have just happened on a random Monday Night Raw, just to say that it did happen. So people want to agree with us or even disagree with us, where can people find you guys on the social media?
According to Woods, on everything except for Twitter. Otherwise, it's Adam K. Woods on Twitter. But according to Woods, across the board.
And I know, Kris Kloss, you have a Twitter page, the Kris Kloss.
That's right. We've been getting a lot of people asking questions about not only missed opportunities, but right here on the Wrestling Chatter channel, I host Extreme Memories, everything XPW. So a lot of questions have been coming in, and thank you for all the views, for everybody that's been watching and sharing the videos. Please continue to share these videos. Throw a comment on the YouTube video, though. We'd love to see those comments on the YouTube video, and give it the old Arthur Fonzarelli, if you don't mind.
Hey, it's Christy Olsen. If you like this video as much as I did, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends so they can join in the Wrestling Chatter too. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and follow the show on Twitter at TW Chatter. See you next time.